History was, and still is, among the Ringatu, conceived as an extension of mythology. According to Dr. Judith Binney, professor of history at the University of Auckland. Throughout the past decade, China has been increasingly involved in global affairs, a direct result of its goal, becoming the world's largest economy. During this time period, China has transformed its global image, increasing its foreign aid program, and the migration of people around the world. A key component of this transformation is the Belt and Road Initiative, named after the historic Silk Road. The name in itself demonstrates a historic aspect of Chinese culture, the belief that we should look into the past for wisdom for the future. As we can see here from the image from the World Bank, we can see how China has expanded its Belt and Road Initiative to places along the lines of the former Silk Road and spread its cultural influence to continents around the world. These places include Africa, Italy, India, and other nations that have been increasingly growing their ties with China. Good afternoon. My name is Kit Liu, and this is my presentation on China's Belt and Road Initiative. My research question was, to what extent has the Belt and Road Initiative positively contributed to increased Chinese influence around the world since its start in 2013? The answer? China's Belt and Road Initiative positively contributed to increased Chinese influence, promoting its economic growth, increasing ethnic Chinese cultural influence, and strengthening Chinese strategic hold over BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, nations. To start, according to a study done by the International Trade Commission, according to U.S. Government Accountability Office, we can see here how China has poured over $20 billion to Ecuador, $35 billion to Pakistan, and $45 billion to Indonesia. Three of which, all of them, are countries the United States withdrew aid from. We can see how the United States has over 226 power plants in 64 countries. China also has solar power, textile production, and car manufacturing, the top of those key sectors, and has spent over $679 billion on infrastructure projects between 2013 and 2022. Furthermore, according to this graph from the International Trade Commission, we can see how China is on the top of the manufacturing of solar modules and cells compared to other countries such as Vietnam, Malaysia, and Thailand. So by the numbers, according to Dr. Amy Myers-Joff, professor and research director at the Sustainability Lab of New York University, China set its goal for $6 trillion to be invested in low-carbon power generation by 2040. 40 million people are the number of people who have been lifted out of poverty by the Belt and Road Initiative. 420,000 people have gotten jobs from the Belt and Road Initiative, and 3,000 cooperation projects have been started due to the Belt and Road Initiative. So this leads us to some key innovative benefits. As evidenced by Dr. Joff, $6 trillion will go directly into energy investments that directly increase technological innovation. Collaboration projects between nations will increase research and development, which sets China at a prime position to continue innovating renewable energy and renewable energy technologies. China has also worked to increase the quality of life while lowering its prices of existing technologies, strengthening its hold over the global energy market. Currently, the Belt and Road Initiative is in effect in over 147 countries, covering over 2/3 of the world's population and 40% of the world's GDP. But this isn't all birds and butterflies. Looking at this image over here from Statistica, we can see that all these countries, such as Laos and Mongolia, that are in debt to China due to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Rather than providing free foreign aid to nations, China's Belt and Road Initiative provides a loan system that creates a debt trap where countries are not able to repay their interest and are forced to submit to the will of China. By loaning out money to these countries that cannot reasonably pay back this principal in the short lending duration, China creates a cycle of debt dependency where these countries borrow from China and are financially and ethically obligated to abide by China's rules. So this also leads us to some strategic implications. China's increased presence in the South China Sea has allowed China to assert its territorial claims over disputed waters, including the areas around Taiwan, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Korea. We can also see how this will also allow China to achieve its goal of unification by 2049. China's Belt and Road Initiative further serves as a force multiplier for the People's Liberation Army. This is through This is through dual-use capabilities in ports, railways, and digital systems, which means that through its investments, it's able to use these for military capabilities as well. We can also see how Chinese dominance over the economic playing field allows other nations to increase their economic dependence on China. So migration is also associated with cultural influence, according to the Cato Institute. There's a negative relationship between the size of the destination country and the effect of migration on cultural convergence. As we can see here, if there's a size of a destination country that is small, and a size of China that is large, when China sends immigrants over, or migrants, or even tourists over to small countries like Laos with only 7.5 million people compared to China with 2 billion people, 1.4 billion people in their country, this creates the ability of China to assert its culture is enormous. Due to projects such as high-speed railways between countries like Laos and China, this allows Laos to increase its economic dependence on China and have China increase its benefits from the Belt and Road Initiative. Furthermore, 350 million border crossings have highlighted a continued decade of upward trends, including 4.4 billion domestic trips from Chinese tourist markets, which illustrates the strength of the Chinese tourist market. All these immigrants will move on to other nations, which in turn builds up the cultural influence. According to Rachel Kanzi-Gonza, a writer from the College Board Stimulus, it is the same break in cultural enclaves that also creates the ways of blues, bebop, and jazz, which are forms of expression that result from cultural enclaves. So this doesn't only happen in small nations, but it also happens in larger nations as well. So when Chinese tourists or even immigrants move to another country, such as the United States or Kazakhstan, people consider the history to be a part of their individual culture. They'll carry this culture on to newer nations, and they will also bring this culture with them as they move on. So this serves some important implications. International relations with BRI countries, Belt and Road Initiative, will remain subservient, and China will remain the loaner, while the other country remains the lender, or the lendee. Technological advances will continue to remain with China, as China increases its Belt and Road Initiative, and the debt trap diplomacy maximizes leverage over other nations. So, in conclusion, ethnic enclaves provide a place for Chinese culture to thrive overseas. Ethnic growth results from increased connection. And also, China's Belt and Road Initiative will serve as a strategic force multiplier for its national security. Thank you for your time.
Back up a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so I have two questions for you. First up, Kit, what information did you need before you began your research, and how did that shape your research?
So before I began my research, I needed information about what the Belt and Road Initiative was, and I also needed information on how this Belt and Road Initiative affected other people. And this is how I structured my outline of how I created my own research for the IWA first, and then moving on to the IMP.
And then what additional questions kind of popped up as you were going along?
As I was going along, I was wondering about if there was additional effects to like the marginalized communities in other nations, how other nations perceive China because of its increasing Belt and Road Initiative, as well as how if there was something that could have been done, but for this specific presentation, I chose to do a resolution and show the implications of what China already does, so we could see the positive impacts it has impacted China.